Okay. Chapters 1 through 2. Or 1 through 3. Pardon me. Okay, so big things go down in 3. Big things that honestly make me question exactly this version of the story. So, I'm sure you hear Everett back there. It's the best we can do. He doesn't pay attention to me either. So, as we begin looking at this text, the very first thing that I want to bring up is that Xena leaves. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why does Xena leave? You know, because she picked up on this with the shaving comment that she has an inkling that something's going on. Ladies, you tell me if there's any way in the world you would leave your husband alone with a person of his attraction. What is her motivator? Some girls have told me in the past they thought it was a test. Some people have thought in the past that she might have her own thing going on, and Ethan is so all consumed in himself he can't, even see Xena. But as we really begin to look further and further at this text, some of my other questions, we learn a lot about Maddie Silver, and that her father was in the drug business. Okay, so even then, drug as quotation marks around it. So there's a double entendre there. He's in some sort of illegal business. Now, Oren Silver. Now we also know that Maddie is poor. Maddie has nowhere else to go. Maddie took on a couple different jobs, which strained her to the point that she can't even work any longer. Which once again now puts you in her position. My first question: does she know? Second, if she does in fact know, and she does not have those same feelings, is what she's doing, is it okay? Because she becomes complicit in the affair then. Is she just as bad as Ethan? If she does know and does have the same feelings, what quiets her? Now, here's the thing. Now for Xena, is she as bad as Ethan wants to paint her? You guys have all been in relationships, and at the end, and remember when you very first meet him at the beginning, you're like, oh my God, they are so amazing. The sun rises and sets on everything they do. Why is it then solely 6 months or a year later, or for some of us even quicker, even the sound of them eating can infuriate us? That very laughter which used to fill us with joy, now is an irritant. The question becomes why. Now, Everett back there is not going to be quiet no matter what happens. We have to move on beyond this. The question becomes why. So then, as we begin to really look at Ethan, right, he's left alone. He is given an opportunity in chapter 4. Does he have what it takes in his being to reach out for his fish? Then my question is Maddie even a fish, or does she parallel more Daisy? Right? Think about it. Gatsby didn't want Daisy. It was the idea of Daisy that filled him with hope. Does he see Maddie Silver, or does he see a lack of options and therefore push ideas upon Maddie Silver? Now, she is more open in his understanding to the things that he enjoys in Xena, which would inherently bring some sort of attraction. But is she his fish? Remember, we said the fish, good or bad, right? Sorry, the fish, caught or not, is good because the heart of what the fish symbolizes is good. There's purity. He is a fisherman. We have understood that Daisy, had Gatsby hooked her, probably would have been the destruction of his very idea, the true destruction of his dreams. So Fitzgerald kills him before he can understand that everything that he's built his life upon is false. And now we have Ethan. If he gains Maddie Silver, does he gain the love in truth that he says he so desires? Does he gain Florida back? Does he gain all those texts back with those words that were strewn across pages that he didn't understand but really desired to? Is she all encompassing of everything that was taken from him when he went back home? Because all the smart ones get away. Or is gaining her, which would mean leaving Xena, leaving his reputation of being a good guy, is gaining her going to be his destruction? Now, what is so amazing about this tale is Edith Wharton lulls us into forgetting that we already know the answers. We know he lives on a farm with Xena. Did you forget? You get so wrapped up in this tale of what is said and what is not said that we forget that she already said he ends up with Xena. But she draws you in. And much like she says, it's not the words that are said in the text. It's not the things that we say that really make our lives. It's the things that we don't. Those opportunities we don't reach out for. Ethan is an all-encompassing idea of the idea of that. Now, here's the thing. He went back home to take care of his family. Selfless or selfish to deny our own desires in our life. Selfless to put our family first and kill our own future. Or selfish because it just allows us to call ourselves a martyr. It allows us an excuse to never have had tried. That excuse is built in inherently within Ethan. Because he selflessly went home, he can selfishly blame them forever. And he can make. Is it what allows him to make Maddie Silver more? Is she more or is she it? I don't know. So let's begin with chapter 4. As soon as his wife had driven off, Ethan took his coat and cap from the peg. Maddie was washing up the dishes, humming one of the dance tunes of the night before. He said, "So long, Matt." And she answered gaily, "So long, Ethan." And that was all. And that was all. Like, there's so much more to say here. I love you, Matt. Xena's gone. Let's make a run for it, baby. You my boo forever. What holds him back? What really holds him back? It was warm and bright in the kitchen. The sun slanted through the south window on the girl's moving figure, on the cat dozing in a chair, and on the geraniums brought in from the doorway, where Ethan had planted them in the summer to make a garden for Maddie. He would have liked to linger on, watching her tidy up and then settle down to her sewing. But he wanted still more to get the hauling done and be back at the farm before night. All the way down to the village, he continued to think of his return to Maddie. The kitchen was a poor place, not spruce and shining as his mother had kept it in his boyhood. But it was surprising what a home-like look the mere fact of Xena's absence gave it. And he pictured what it would be like that evening when he and Maddie were there after supper. For the first time, they would be alone together indoors, and they would sit there, one on each side of the stove like a married couple, he in his stocking feet and smoking his pipe, she laughing and talking that funny way she had, which was always as new to him as if he had never heard her before. The sweetness of the picture and the relief of knowing that his fears of trouble with Xena were unfounded sent up his spirits with a rush, and he who was usually so silent whistled and sang aloud as he drove through the snowy fields. There was in him a slumbering spark of sociability which the long Starkville winters had not yet extinguished. It's interesting. Starkville almost becomes a character itself. Like the sea. Like East Egg, West Egg, and the Valley of the Ashes. It's interesting. when settings become characters, when settings are so the antithesis of what the character wants, but for some reason the character is tied to them. By nature grave and inarticulate, he admired recklessness and gaiety in others and was warmed to the marrow by friendly human intercourse. At Worcester, though he had not the name of keeping to himself and not being much of a hand at a good time, he had secretly gloried in being clapped on the back and hailed as Old Eth or Old Stiff. And the cessation of such familiarities had increased the chill of his return to Starkfield. There, the silence had deepened about him year by year. Left alone after his father's accident to carry the burden of farm and mill, he had had no time for convivial loiterings in the village. And when his mother fell ill, the loneliness of the house grew more oppressive than that of the fields. His mother had been a talker in her day, but after her trouble, the sound of her voice was seldom heard, though she had not lost the power of speech. Sometimes, in the long winter evenings, when in desperation her son asked her why she didn't say something, she would lift her finger and answer, "Because I'm listening." And on stormy nights when the loud winter was above the house, she would complain if he spoke to her, "They're talking so out there that I can't hear you." It was only when she drew toward her last illness and his cousin Zenobia Pierce came over from the next valley to help him nurse her. Okay, two things. First, get over it. Zena's his cousin too, which Maddie is his second cousin, which is all incestuous and yeah, whatever. Okay, human speech was heard again in the house. After the mortal silence of his long imprisonment, Zena's volubility was music in his ears. See, she was music once too. Now, once again, is the loneliness paralleled? Is Maddie being fit into something that she's not? Is Zena not as evil because she was music? Let's go on. He felt that he might have gone like his mother if the sound of a new voice had not come to steady him. Zena seemed to understand his case at a glance. She laughed at him for not knowing the simplest sick bed duties and told him to go right along out and leave her to see things. The mere fact of obeying her orders, of feeling free to go about his business again and talk with other men, restored his shaken balance and magnified his sense of what he owed her. A sense of owing again, like his parents. Who do you sympathize with? Her efficiency shamed and dazzled him. She seemed to possess by instinct all the household wisdom that his long apprenticeship had not instilled in him. When the end came, it was she who had to tell him to hitch up and go for the undertaker. And she thought it funny they had not settled beforehand who was to have his mother's clothes and the sewing machine. After the funeral, when he saw her preparing to go away, he was seized with an unreasoning dread of being left alone on the farm. Ethan hates his feeling of loneliness and isolation. And before he knew what he was doing, he had asked her to stay there with him. He had often thought about since that it would not have happened if his mother had died in spring instead of winter. Ellipses. Said, but what is not said. Do you believe that? If Zena had been there in spring, had the winter not been so oppressive, had he not been so lonely, had he been able to talk to other people, would he have avoided all this? Is it that simple? A simple shift in season, does it change his whole existence? Or is there some sort of weakness or inability to seize like Gatsby had, to seize and to try like Santiago had? Is that innate with him? Is he trapped solely in here? When they married, it was agreed that as soon as he could straighten out the difficulties resulting from Mrs. Frome's long illness, they would sell the farm and sawmill and try their luck in a large town. Ethan's love of nature did not take the form of a taste for agriculture. He had always wanted to be an engineer and to live in towns where there were lectures and big libraries and fellows doing things. A slight engineering job in Florida put in his way during his period of study at Worcester increased his faith in his ability as well as his eagerness to see the world. And he felt sure that with a smart wife like Zena, it would not be long before he had made himself a place in it. It's so interesting. Now remember, guys, I told you, you're going to keep on going. You're going to finish 4, 5, and 6, and we'll meet up next week to talk about them. Remember, I told you the very first text is how I wish and I hope that you live this life. That you know who you are, that you know what you want, and you know what you were meant to do, and you go and do something. And if that changes, it's okay. Because if you remember, Emerson said, consistency is a hobgoblin of little minds. You have to be consistent. Speak what you believe now in hard words. I want to be a doctor today. Tomorrow you may want to be a poet. Changing doesn't make you wrong. Constantly searching for what makes you whole, for what you're passionate about. And for going with those passions, you cannot be wrong. Now the second book is one of my fears as we go over into college. If we allow others' ideas to prey upon us, others' ideas of success, others' ideas of wealth, and then we find ourselves in some corner booth, hacking away at some job endlessly, unfulfilled and unhappy. I do not want that for you. But this is my greatest fear. That you'll make excuses. That you won't try. That you'll selflessly allow other things to get in your way so that you can selfishly blame them for why things didn't work out. So keep reading chapters 4 through 6. I'll talk to you guys next week. And thank you very much for your time. Bye.